Hello, my algebra doing friends. We have some lovely math to do on chapter 0.4, so let's get to it. Oh, I'm supposed to push this button. Okay, so here is 0.4, subtraction of real numbers. So in section 3, we had done addition of real numbers, and so here we're going to do some subtraction. And what subtract means is to add the opposite. And so if you look at 6 take away 7 and you know the answer and you get the answer right all the time, and you look at -6 subtract -2 and you know the answer, then you don't have to rewrite it. But if when you're first learning, you know when you're riding a bicycle, you start off on your training wheels. And then after a while, you don't need those training wheels anymore. And if anyone tried to put training wheels back on your bicycle, you would be like, "Oh, I don't need those." And it's kind of a similar deal here, is that once you know how to do it, you don't rewrite it. And so people who know how to do it don't typically rewrite it, but it's the rewriting it that gets you to the point where you know how to do it. And so anyway. So they're telling us that you can rewrite this as A take away B is the same as A plus the opposite of B. Add the opposite. So to subtract is add the opposite. And so I can rewrite this subtraction. If I don't know this answer and I'm like, ooh, what would it be? I can rewrite it as an add of the opposite. And so just like that would be, right? So it changes it into an add of the opposite, right? So we have 6 here, that just comes straight down. And then you add and put your finger over the subtraction sign, and you're looking right there at the 7, and 7 is positive, and I want to do the opposite. And so the opposite is -7. So there I added the opposite. So now I can use my rules for add. Right? I can say 6 is positive, 7 is negative. When they're different signs, you think about the numbers without sign, okay? And you subtract them. When they're opposite, you subtract them. Bigger minus smaller. 7 take away 6, which is 1. And then you take the larger sign. So it's quite a process, right? And the larger number was 7, and it was negative, so it's -1. So if you know that 6 take away 7 was -1, then you're good to go, and that would have been fine. You could have just written that down right there. Now you could also think about if you had your 6 fingers, there's my 6 fingers, and someone says, hey, I want to take 7 fingers away from you. So if you wanted to take 7 fingers away from me, then I don't have enough, right? So I'm gonna owe you one. And so if you're going to take away 7 fingers. Now you can do the tile method on that. I wanted to show you the tile method on it. Now remember, so I'm going to put it up here on the tile method, that a plus and a minus are a 0 pair, and they can leave. So this starts us off with 6 positives for number 2. So we start off with 6 positives. And then this is where it's different when it's subtract. It says we're going to take out 7 positives, right? Remove. Subtract means remove. So I'm going to remove 7 positives. But I look there and I don't have 7 positives to remove, right? So I have to use this idea of the 0 pair. So I'm going to put in a 0 pair. So there's a 0 pair. And now I do have 7 positives that I can remove. So I started with 6 positives. And now it's telling me take out, remove, subtract, right? 7 positives. And then the dust is cleared. What do I have? I have 1 negative. So the answer is -1. So that is the tile method on that. Okay, so this is number 14. Using the rule of rewriting it, you would first write down the -6. Then you would change this subtraction to an add, and you would do the opposite of -2. And the opposite of negative 2 is 2, right? Do the opposite of negative 2, that's 2. So I have negative 6 plus 2, and then I'm in add. So this is negative, this is positive, and so I have 6 and 2. I'm not thinking about their signs, but I know I'm going to be subtracting them. Larger minus smaller, 6 minus 2 is 4. And we take the larger sign, large sign, right? And 6 was the larger number, and it went with the negative sign, so this is negative 4. And you can certainly do the tile method. You get where you're really darn good at doing your positive and negative numbers, and people who I show this to, and they're like, oh, I know the answer. And so, and I told you guys that, I don't know if I said it in this video or the last video, I'm getting confused because they're kind of running together a little bit today, but it's kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you know how to do it, you don't need training wheels again. My mom is 76 years old, and last year she said, maybe she's only 75. Oh shoot, I better have that right because she does watch these, and then she's going to get mad at me. Yeah, she's 75. She's coming up on 76. Anyway, long story short, she told me I can ride a bicycle. I'm like, Mom, you haven't been on a bicycle in I don't even know how long. She said, I can ride the bicycle. She got on the bicycle and she rode the bicycle. I mean, and so it is positive, negative numbers are kind of the same way, that once you get them down, maybe a little review and maybe rough at the beginning when you get going, but you will be able to get going on them. Okay, so this one has some order of operation in it. And so I notice that I have 30 subtract, and then I have a grouping symbol. My computer doesn't make that bracket very well. I don't know why. I don't know who I could call to make it do it better. But and then inside this grouping symbol, I have another grouping symbol. So that's where I need to be working. And that's just simply 10 take away 5, right? I have 10 fingers. And if I, oops, I didn't get them all on the screen. And if I take away 5 of them, then I have 5 fingers, right? So this is going to be 30 minus, and then I have the opposite of, and then inside the parenthesis I had 5 minus 15, and then minus 25. And so the opposite of 5 is just negative 5. And so the way that's written, if it's confusing you, don't let it confuse you. That's just negative 5 there. And so this is, so if you want to rewrite it, you can. I mean, you don't have to take the time to rewrite it if you don't want to, too. While I'm here, because this is a subtract, I'm going to rewrite that as an add. So I'm going to add, remember, add the opposite. So now I'm going to do the opposite. So the opposite, put your finger right over the subtraction sign when you're saying the opposite of 15 is negative 15. Minus 25 we'll have hanging out here. So now I have negative 5 and I'm adding it with negative 15. A lot of people like to hang parentheses around when they have an add and then a negative number, and that's fine if you like to do that. And I also understand that some people now are not hanging the parentheses around there. And so now these are the same sign, because this is negative and this is negative, and I'm adding. And whenever you add, when they're both negative, so that's what I'm doing, is you just add the numbers together, 5 and 15, that's 20, and you take the common sign, negative 20. So I have two debts, right? And I'm pushing my two debts together. So I have 30 minus negative 20, and then minus 25. And now I'm ready to right here. This is subtract of a negative is what I got going right there. And subtract of a negative is the same as an addition, and it's because of the add the opposite, right? When I turn this into an add and then I do the opposite, I get a positive. So this is 30 plus, right? So I'm changing the subtraction into an add, and then the opposite, so I've got to do two things, gives me 20, and then take away 25. And then now I've got here 50, take away 25, and I don't have 50 fingers, but if I did, I could think, I mean, this is just regular subtraction, so that's 25. And the good news is that you can verify that, hey, you have everything going. If you wanted to try it on your calculator, you definitely could. So this is 30, subtract. And remember I was telling you before that the calculator doesn't have bracket, but you can just use parenthesis in place of it. Now that symbol right there, the calculator might make a big deal. Is that a subtraction or is that a negative? And older calculators will definitely not do it if you put the wrong one. And this calculator, I think, is actually pretty friendly and will do it. I think it'll give me the same answer no matter what. So technically, truthfully, that's a negative. So I should be using that negative sign. And so parentheses 10, and then this is a takeaway. And then that's a takeaway 15, and then end the bracket, and then take away 25. And then you notice it gave us 25. So, and I think if you do the back arrow here, you can edit what you have up here. And I think if I come in here and I delete that where I said I'm going to put in the negative sign, and I say, we'll put on the subtraction sign, I think that the calculator will handle it. You could give that a try on an older calculator and it won't do it. I think it'll even tell you error. And actually, it's better when it tells you error than doing it wrong. And so, and that sometimes happens because it tries to do what you asked it, right? I mean, a calculator is only a tool and it will only do what I asked it. So it's not, Okay, and then this one has a little bit of exponents in it. Remember the order of operations was grouping symbols in parentheses, right? And exponents, and multiply and divide here, and subtract gems and PEMDAS, however, whatever one you use. You don't usually use both of them, so you use one or the other. And I don't have any parentheses in this problem or any grouping symbols, but I do have the exponents, which we haven't had before. In order of operation problem, at least in the notes we haven't had it. And so I just want to look at, just real quick off to the side here, what 6 squared is, because that's the first thing I'm going to do. And 6 squared, remember that's repeated multiplication. Write the 6 twice, which is 6 times 6, which is 36. So when I see this 6 squared right here, that's really just 36, right? Common boo-boo is for people to say that it's 6 times 2 instead of 6 times 6, right? So you have to kind of be careful there. So this is 3 times 36 minus 2 times, and I was okay to go ahead and do that exponent because I'm just going left to right. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9, right? So 9 minus, and then 8 times, coincidentally, 6 squared, which is 36. And now I have some pretty big numbers to multiply, right? I did the exponents. I no longer have them. Now I'm on multiply. 3 times 36 to multiply. 2 times 9, that's 18. And 8 times 36. So I would have to do those out here or with a calculator, either one. People always ask you, are you going to allow us to use calculator? And I do. So I want you to be able to use it as a tool. So 3 times 36, and I get 108, so I'm going to use it. 108 minus 18 minus 8 times 36, which is 288. So I did use the calculator to do that little bit of multiplying for me, and yeah, I can put this in all in one line. But I am practicing showing my work. So I'm practicing doing step by step by hand. But I just took a little shortcut. So instead of being over here going 36 times 3, that's 18, carry a 1, that's 108. So I certainly could have done it completely by hand if I would have wanted to. Now I have 108 subtract 18. And that's just regular subtraction, right? 108 subtract 18, is that 90? I think it is. I think, right? And then the next one there is take away 288. And I can't take away 288 from that, although you might get where you're getting pretty good at it, right? You might be saying, well, I had $90, and if they remove $288 out of my account, then I'm going to be definitely in the negative, right? I'm going to be owing money. And how much am I going to owe? Well, all I have to do is do 288 minus 90, right? 288 minus 90. I'm going to have an 8. I'm going to have to borrow there if I'm doing it by hand. And is that a 9 there? And I borrowed, so 198. So, and I'm going to owe, right? So negative 198. And I certainly can give a try on my calculator, right? So I was just doing the rule in my head, saying this one's positive and that one's negative. And if you're saying, wait a minute, is that one negative? It is, isn't it? Because if I rewrote this, right, 90 plus, and then the opposite, add the opposite, right, 288. And so you do get where when the 90 is positive, subtract 288, I start thinking negative 288. Do you see why? Because when I rewrite it, that's what it is. And so anyway, and then you can put this in your calculator like you see it. So let's see here. We have 3 times and then 6 squared. So here's 6. And then right here is the squared button, x raised to the 2. And I already have the base 6 in. So raised to the second. And then minus 2 times 3 to the second minus 8 times 6 to the second. And then equals and negative 198, which is what we had, right? It's what we had for our answer, and so we feel really happy. Yay, yay, yay. So we checked them. Okay, so that's section 0.4. Subtraction with real numbers.